Hey y'all, what's good? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I want to let's check our subscriber count real quick before I get started. We are at 709 subscribers. Thank you so much, you guys, for keeping up with me and my content, liking, sharing, engaging, and all of that good stuff. I can't believe we are so close to 1,000. It's crazy. All right, let me pipe down because today's video is hard for me. By far, one of the hardest videos that I have had to talk about since I started this channel. Um, it is about Tamir Rice. Many of you have heard of this case. If you haven't, Tamir Rice was a 12-year-old lovable little boy who was in the park with a toy gun that did not have the orange tip attached to the gun. And a passerby called 911 to report Tamir of walking around the recreational center outside, waving the gun. He also told 911 that there was a great possibility that the gun was fake and that the individual was most likely a juvenile. 911 failed to relay that pertinent information to police officers. They called in the call as a code one, which is arrived with the highest priority. Upon arriving to the recreational center, the police unalived Tamir within seconds. Now, here's the thing. I have gone back and forth with myself about doing this video for about 2 to 3 weeks. Excuse me. Mainly because it is a very sensitive topic. Tamir was just a baby. Um, his mother is still grieving. His sister is still grieving. We have a community who is still at a loss for words, right? But on the other side, we have the police who are trained to do a job. And a lot of times, per the public, the choices that police make aren't the best choices. They use poor tactics a lot. And so I have chosen to talk about it, but I don't want to bash Tamir. I don't want to bash his mom, Miss Samaria Rice, and I don't want to bash the police. I don't want to get too deep into, um, gosh, I don't want to get too deep into if he was reaching for a gun. I don't want to get too caught up in what could have, should have been done. I'll talk about it briefly, but to me, there is always something that could have been done differently as it results or as it relates to a unaliving via the police. I'll put it that way. So what I want to do is play the video. It's about a half an hour. I want to then read the case report, insert a little bit of opinion, and then I will leave the floor open for you guys to discuss what you think and what you feel. Because I always try to encourage healthy dialogue. I try to encourage everyone to think for themselves and not necessarily challenge me, but challenge the topic, right? So everybody is astute enough to look at the facts, hear the facts, use that information to come up with your own analysis. I am just here to present the information, provide my own take on it without trying to persuade you to go on either side of the narrative, right? So let's go straight into the video. It does not have any sound. We'll provide commentary throughout the video. And let's just do that. Okay. Give me a second. All right. Here we go. So as you can see back here, Tamir is sitting alone under a gazebo. The video is very grainy. However, I don't see any weapons whatsoever. He has now gotten up to walk around the gazebo. There is the police approaching him. They immediately get out of the car and he is now on the ground. Okay. Just that quickly, Tamir has a bullet in his body that is traveling. The police, this person here, from my understanding, is a rookie. This officer is the person who is training the rookie. He has taken cover behind his car in the event that Tamir will, I guess, get back up and try to use this gun on him. Now, what I will say is that this officer has already approached Tamir on the ground, and I'm assuming that he tried to see if there is a weapon. I don't know if he removed the toy gun from Tamir's waist or not, but what I will say is that they are not performing any type of CPR, which they are trained to do. Once I read the report, we will see if they have dispatched 911 yet. But as you can see, this cop here is still behind the car. This cop is just standing here. Okay. This is his sister, who is 14 years of age. She is running to see about her brother. They are going to handcuff her, place her in the back of the cop car. Okay. I'm left to assume that they handcuff her because they are in fear that she is coming to antagonize the situation. Tamir is still over here on the ground bleeding out. This officer has still not performed any type of life saving measures at all. 'This is a passerby here. There's another one over here. They are now back over by where Tamir is laying on the ground. No one has performed any CPR. This is his sister over here. I'm left to assume that she is just irate, afraid, screaming. Her brother's on the ground, dying. 3 minutes have gone by and they have not provided any type of life saving measures for Tamir. There is no ambulance in sight. 4 minutes have gone by and there have been no life saving measures applied for Tamir. 5 minutes have passed. No CPR for Tamir Rice. We are almost at the 6-minute mark and no CPR. So now at the 6:48 mark or so, we are gonna see another cop car arrive to the scene with sirens on and blazing. He's made his way over to the other cops. He's standing here. I'm left to assume that they are discussing what took place. However, again, another officer has arrived to the scene. He's been laying on the ground for over 7 minutes. Nobody has rendered any type of life-saving measures, which the cops are trained to do. It has been more than 10 minutes. We don't see an ambulance in sight. They are putting up the crime scene tape. There are at least 7 officers on the scene. Here are some more officers over here arriving. Finally, we see a stretcher after 12 minutes. They are now taking Tamir to the ambulance to transport him to a local hospital. Now, there is a point where Tamir's mom arrives on the scene. They do not give her any information. She is told that she could either go in the ambulance with Tamir or go home. The duration of this video is the cops congregating. I'm unsure what is being discussed. It may be in this report that I'm getting ready to read, but the heart of what I wanted you guys to see has played. Okay. So Tamir was sitting alone in a gazebo. When he saw the cop car, he got up. He started to approach the cop car. The cops got out of the car. While the car was still in motion, they let off a few shots. Tamir laid on the ground for 12 minutes. No one rendered first aid to him. No one rendered CPR to him. His 14-year-old sister tried to approach Tamir to see what was going on. She was stopped and detained by the police and placed in the back of the police car. About the 12-minute mark, the ambulance arrived and took him to the hospital where he later expired. I am now going to read the um the case report. Okay. So here we go. On Saturday, November 22nd, 2014, at approximately 10:30 a.m., Tamir Rice, 12 years old, along with his sister, 14 years old, and a good friend slash witness who was 16 years old, and witness number two, or witness number two's cousin, walked over to the Kudale Recreational Center. Witness number two lived across the street from Tamir on West 99th Street. Over the year that the Rice family lived at the location, witness number two became good friends with Tamir. Tamir was a regular at the recreation center. Hold on a second, I'm sorry. Here you go. If you want to follow along, I apologize. Okay. Tamir was a regular at the recreation center, and he usually spent 5 days a week there, which is located a mere 2 blocks from his house. At the time, witness number two had owned a replica firearm, an airsoft pistol that fired plastic BBs that witness number two's father had previously purchased at a local Walmart. Tamir and witness number two agreed that that day that witness number two would give the replica firearm to Tamir, and Tamir would give witness number two a cell phone that only the Wi-Fi worked on, so that witness number two could access the internet. According to witness number two, the replica firearm came with an orange tip to signify it was a toy and not a real gun. Sometime before the shooting, the replica firearm malfunctioned and witness number two took it apart, fired it, but was unable to put the orange tip back on the gun. Witness number two also stated that before November 22nd, 2014, Tamir had borrowed the replica firearm from witness number two on several occasions and even kept the gun overnight. On that very day, witness number two warned Tamir to be careful with the gun because the orange tip was missing and because the replica firearm looked like a real gun. During the morning of November 22nd, 2014, Tamir made the exchange with witness number two and put the replica firearm in his backpack. They then went into the recreation center. At around noon, Tamir and his sister went back home and then returned to the recreation center at 1 p.m. Witness number two indicated that he was supposed to get the gun back that day, but never did. Video surveillance that afternoon shows Tamir generally playing around with the gun outside the recreation center at various times during the day. The surveillance video also indicates that friends of Tamir at various times also played with the gun outside the recreation center. Tamir can be seen pulling the replica firearm from his right side waist, putting it back into his right side waist, uh, pretending to pop at car tires and pointing it at witness number two, popping at his sister, pointing it towards nobody, showing his friends, and generally playing with the replica firearm. At around 3:11 p.m., the 911 caller entered the park area and sat down at the far bench under the gazebo outside the recreation center. The 911 caller was waiting for a bus to arrive. At 3:24 p.m., the 911 caller made the following 911 call to the Cleveland dispatcher, Constance Hollinger. 911 caller, "Hi, how are you?" Dispatcher, "Good." 911 caller, "I'm sitting here in the park by the West Boulevard Rapid Transit Station. There's a guy with a pistol. It's probably fake, but he's pointing it at everybody." Dispatcher, "So you're at the Rapid station?" 911 starts to cough. The caller starts to cough. Dispatcher, "Are you at the Rapid station?" 911 caller, "No, I'm sitting across the street at the park." Dispatcher, "What's the name of the park? Kudell?" 911 caller, "Kudell, yes." Guy keeps pulling it in and out of his pants. It's probably fake, but you know what? It's scaring the shit out of me. Dispatcher, "What does he look like?" 911 caller, "He has on a camouflage hat on." Dispatcher, "Is he black or white?" 911 caller, "He has a gray coat with black sleeves, gray pants on." Dispatcher, "Is he black or white?" 911 caller, "I'm sorry?" Dispatcher, "Is he black or white?" 911 caller, "He's black." Dispatcher, "You said he had a camel jacket and gray pants?" "No, he has a camouflage hat on." "You know what that is?" Dispatcher, "Yes." 911 caller, "Desert Storm, and his jacket is gray, and it's got black sleeves in it. He's sitting on a swing right now, but he keeps pulling it in and out of his pants and pointing it at people. He's probably a juvenile, you know?" Dispatcher, "You know the guy?" 911 caller, "No, I do not." Dispatcher, "Do you want to leave your name and number?" 911 caller, "Huh?" Dispatcher, "Do you want to leave your name and number?" 911 caller, "Sure. I'm getting ready to leave, but I wanted." Dispatcher, "Sir, what is your name?" 911 caller gives his name. Dispatcher, "What's your phone number?" 911 caller gives his phone number. "I'm getting ready to leave, but you know what? He's right by the, youth center or whatever, and he keeps pulling it in and out of his pants. I don't know if it's real or not." Dispatcher, "Okay, we'll send a car out there. Thank you." 911 caller, "Thank you." Now, a few things that I want you guys to keep in mind is that the 911 caller said on several occasions that the gun could possibly be fake and that Tamir was possibly a juvenile. Also, take note that the dispatcher did not ask if anyone else was in the area. The Caller did state that Tamir was on the swing. He was not, out walking around pointing it at anyone. He said that he was sitting on the swing pointing it. That stuck out to me, as well as the fact that, like I said, the dispatcher did not ask if anyone else was in the area. She did not tell him to take cover, to not approach Tamir, to, try to get away from him. Again, take cover. So those are things that I personally took note of. Okay. You guys can form your own opinions. In the city of Cleveland, the dispatch center has a two-step process before the information is dispatched. A call taker receives the initial call, vets the information, and then relays it electronically to the actual dispatcher. On this date, the call taker did not inform the dispatcher of all of the information. Specifically, the call taker did not inform the dispatcher that the guy, in quotations, with the GUN was probably a juvenile and that the GUN is probably fake. The dispatcher, after some difficulty getting a car to respond because other units were busy, had Adam 25, Garnback, and Lohman, those are the two responding officers, to respond to a code 1, which is the highest priority call to Coaldale Recreation Center. Officers Garnback and Lohman were only minutes away and agreed to take the call after clearing a burglary alarm. The verbatim dispatch is as follows. Dispatcher: Hey, we have a code 1 at Coaldale. Everybody is tied up on priorities. Supposed to be a guy sitting on the swings pointing a gun at people. Adam 25. We'll take it. The alarm check is okay. Dispatcher: All right, thanks. Charlie 20, just disregard them. All right, it's at Coaldale Rec Center, 1910 West Boulevard, 1910 West Boulevard. 911 caller calling. He said in the park by the youth center, there's a black male sitting on the swing. He's wearing a camouflage hat, a gray jacket with black sleeves. He keeps pulling a gun out of his pants and pointing it at people. With that information, the two officers drove to the recreation center, taking West 99th Street, which is a dead end street. They approached by driving past the dead over the grass, coming up to the swing set area where Tamir was reportedly sitting. Tamir was actually sitting on the last bench under the gazebo, which is located directly west from the swing set. Officer Garnback, who was driving, then approached the gazebo. Since it had recently snowed, the ground was wet and covered with wet leaves and snow. Due to the conditions, the police car slid about 40 feet and stopped right in front of the gazebo. Simultaneously with the car sliding, Tamir took a couple steps northwest toward the open field, then approached the sliding police car. Now, this is where I start to have more questions. If they originally responded to the swing set and they did not see Tamir, okay, what is the protocol then? Do you try to call for backup because you don't know if this person has gone to another area with this quote unquote GUN and possibly targeting other individuals? Or do you continue to drive around to look for this person? Was there another call placed to dispatch saying that the person that, is supposed to be at the swing set, they're no longer there? We need backup, right? This is just me as a layperson. I'm not an officer, so I'm not sure. These are questions that I have upon reading this. Furthermore, you decide to drive around to the gazebo where you see Tamir sitting alone at the table. To me, Responding directly to the gazebo is not a good idea. You receive the call that there is an active shooting situation taking place. That is what it is called, even though we know Tamir had a fake gun. I would not have approached that gazebo in such close proximity per the information that was relayed to me from 911 dispatcher, right? Because to me, if this is an unknown individual who may or may not have a GUN, you pulling that close to them is giving them an opportunity to approach you with that GUN, right? Snow or not, sliding or not, I would not have approached that closely to someone who I suspect of having a loaded GUN. Okay. As the car came to a sliding stop, Officer Lohman immediately exited the patrol car from the passenger door. And as he did, Tamir reached into his right side waistband. At that moment, Officer Lohman discharged his firearm within 2 seconds of exiting the car. Officer Lohman fired two shots, one of which hit Tamar in the abdomen and caused him to fall in the area between the patrol car and the gazebo. Again, I will look into what the protocol is when responding to an active shooter situation. But I feel that if you had approached him from a distance and at least tried to de escalate with what was not an aggressive situation, there would have been no need to fire any shots. Y'all let me know what you think. Tamir's sister, who was outside near the main entrance on the other side of the recreation center, ran through the recreation center through the north door toward where Tamir was lying. Officer William Cunningham, a Cleveland Department police officer working off duty to provide security at the rec center, also ran out to the gazebo and, along with Officer Garnback, restrained Tamir's sister, who was in a state of panic. Officers Cunningham and Garnback handcuffed her and placed her in the back of the patrol car. Okay. Now it says that there's an off-duty police officer who's working security at the rec center. I don't know if they were patrolling outside of the rec center or inside of the rec center, but did this person not see Tamir in the few hours that he was there waving around this GUN? I feel like that's a legitimate question. If you are there to provide security as an off-duty police officer, your job is to pay attention and provide safety, right? Did he not see Tamir? Did any of the other passersby that were outside of that recreation center where Tamir was allegedly pointing this gun, did they not call 911? Did they not go into the recreation center and say, "Hey, there's somebody out there with a GUN pointing it all over the place"? Did they report that and he just didn't respond? Did he call the police to report a young guy outside with a GUN pointing it at everyone? There's too many loopholes in this story for me. Detective Daniel Lentz and an FBI special agent who were in that area investigating a bank robbery heard of shots fired and proceeded to the rec center and arrived within 3 minutes. Dispatch records indicate that the shots fired call was made at 3:31 and is as follows. Adam 25, these are the two officers. Radio, shots fired, male down. Black male, maybe 20 years old, black revolver, black handgun. Send EMS this way and a road boss. Dispatcher, are you at Kudell? Adam 25. Yes, ma'am, at Kudell. And then it was unintelligible. Got a gunshot wound to the abdomen. Adam 21. Another patrol car. Are they okay down there? Adam 25. We're fine. Rookie hurt his ankle. So the rookie who fired the shots is more concerned with his ankle being hurt than rendering CPR to a person who was on the ground bleeding out. In the video I showed you, no one, no one tried to render aid to Tamir. At 3:31 is when they called out for assistance. Nowhere in this call did they mention that we have rendered CPR and EMS is on the way. But you want to tell them that the rookie hurt his ankle. Furthermore, I don't want to hear that, oh, well, he was still in fear of his life. Mm-mm. You deactivated the threat. Tamir's on the ground. You have recovered the handgun. You are able to provide a description of the handgun. The threat, there is no longer a threat. So at this point, there is no reason why you couldn't at least try to administer some type of first aid and CPR to this person that you think is 20 years old. The special agent, who was also a national registered paramedic trained to treat gunshot wounds and had served as a combat medic with the Marine Corps. Okay. The special agent immediately began to treat Tamir and immediately realized that Tamir's bullet wound was very severe and required surgery. I don't know about y'all, but I did not see that. Now, granted, the police car was probably obstructing our view and the video was very grainy. However, I did not see that part of the video. I didn't. The special agent had Officer Garnback assist him in providing first aid to Tamir until the fire department arrived approximately 8 minutes later. No, it was 12 minutes. Sorry. It took 12 minutes for them to arrive. The ambulance arrived shortly after the fire department, which then immediately rushed Tamir to Metro Health Hospital. Metro Health was a Trauma One center hospital located on the west side of Cleveland, uh, which most victims of stabbings and gunshot wounds were taken for treatment. Despite undergoing surgery to repair the damage caused by Officer Loman's gunshot, Tamir unfortunately died at Metro Health Hospital several hours after the incident. Oh, man. There are two sides of this, guys. Three sides of this, actually. I'm going to start with the police. Ultimately, police are trained to shoot and kill. They are not trained to just maybe shoot you in the arm or the leg to scare you. I have a family member who is a police officer. We've had numerous conversations about the police and how they are to respond to active shooter situations. And again, they are trained to de escalate. And if someone is presenting with a GUN, they present with a GUN also. They are to diffuse and de escalate the threat. Now, I'm not negating that at all. I'm not. I am not. However, I do not believe in putting yourself in a position to have to use deadly force. And by that I mean there is no way that that cop should have pulled up so close to put himself in a position where he had to immediately fire his weapon. And I understand a lot of you will be like, well, he didn't have a choice because Tamir was reaching. There's a part of me that understands that. But the other part is you should not put yourself in a position to even give him an opportunity to reach and potentially shoot you, you know? Furthermore, to me, if there is a call for an active shooter situation, there should have been at least 2 cop cars to respond, okay? The other 2 officers could have been there to help and to cover the responding officers. I have seen videos where there have been suspects who had real G wins, and officers reported, more than 2 officers reported to the scene, and they were successfully able to de escalate, and there were no unaliving situations that took place. This was a poor tactic made by the police. And it could have been it because he was a rookie, fresh off the academy, or fresh to this jurisdiction to where he thought this was okay. But to me, it is not. It is not. And again, this is my opinion. This is my opinion. Also, I feel like there needs to be reform in the way information is translated via 911 and the police. If you are en route to respond to an active shooter situation, you need to ask clarifying questions. And you can do that while en route so that you can better prepare. If there is an active shooter situation going on, there needs to be more than 2 cops that respond. And maybe even not even a rookie cop to respond. Everybody needs to put themselves in a position to where you remember your first day of either a new career or a new job. You're nervous, especially if you're a cop, if you are new to healthcare, you're new to any type of public service job, you are responsible for someone else's life, right? So any type of situation where you have to provide life-saving measures, you know, sometimes you don't respond in the right way. And so you would need somebody else there who is more experienced than you to help you respond appropriately, right? I'm thinking about the times where I worked in healthcare and you had new nurses and there would be a cold blue. In a cold blue situation, you need all hands on deck. Now, your training tells you to assess and immediately respond, right? But you have nurses who are seasoned, you have doctors who are seasoned, you have a respiratory team who will respond, you have blood bank who will respond, you have a hospital transportation team that will respond, you have your supply chain that will respond with make sure that you have everything in your crash cart. You have all of these people who respond to assist. And I know a lot of y'all are going to be like, well, it's two different situations. Yes and no. At the end of it, you're responding to an active shooter situation, so you don't know exactly what you're getting into. You just know that someone made a call that there is someone with a gun who's waving it around. One person called and said that they're afraid. To me, I would have had more than one patrol car respond. Even if that meant you had to call the next city over or the next jurisdiction over to help assist with this situation. Again, these are my opinions, okay? As far as Tamir, he was 12 years old. A 12-year-old doesn't understand that I don't have time to explain to the police that this is a toy that I have in my waist. A 12-year-old is not gonna necessarily understand that I shouldn't reach to try to prove that this is a toy. A 12-year-old is not gonna understand that the police is gonna respond with force regardless of how old you are, because it has been reported that you have something that is potentially dangerous. A 12-year-old is not going to understand the protocol for responding to an active shooter scenario. A 12-year-old is not going to know that a passerby called 911 to report you as an active shooter when you are only outside playing cops and robbers with your friends. A 12-year-old is not gonna understand that children can and will be criminalized like adults. A 12-year-old is not gonna understand gun safety even if the gun is fake. As an adult, we understand the dangers of waving a gun around. We understand the dangers of not being able to distinguish a toy gun from a real gun. We understand that the police are trained to kill. We understand that the police respond and then ask questions. We understand that sometimes the police can misinterpret info, and we understand not to reason with danger. These are things that we have to, going forward, teach our children. Now, Miss Amaria Rice probably did not teach Tamir those things, honestly, because she probably thought she never would have had to. But this day and age, given the scenario, given the many a times that this has played out, we now know that we have to teach our children about gun safety. We have to teach our children about the police. We have to teach our children about safety, protecting yourself, how to respond to the police, if it's safe to approach the police, you know, um, the list goes on. So in this instance, that is as much opinion as I will assert for this specific video. It's hard for me to talk about because, of course, I'm a mom and I couldn't imagine this happening to one of my sons. There are so many things that could have been done differently as far as the police and their response, as far as little Tamir and his understanding of how things work. So I want to hear from y'all. Y'all leave me some comments, please. I again encourage healthy dialogue. Try to take the emotion out of this as much as you can and look at what I showed you. Think about what I told you and let's have a discussion, okay? Y'all be easy. Peace.